Joy Division, New Order, Electronic, Revenge, Bad Lieutenant, Monaco, and the other two. These bands are all connected by the members who formed them, starting with Joy Division, one of the most influential post-punk bands of all time. Joy Division were an English rock band formed in Salford in 1976 by vocalist and lyricist Ian Curtis, guitarist and keyboardist Bernard Sumner, bassist Peter Hook, and drummer Stephen Morris. They were inspired by seeing the Sex Pistols perform in Manchester, and they developed a dark and atmospheric sound that combined punk energy with electronic experimentation. They released 2 albums, Unknown Pleasures in 1979 and Closer in 1980. They also recorded some iconic singles, such as Transmission,
Radio, live transmission,
Atmosphere,
inside.
Love Will Tear Us Apart. Their lyrics dealt with themes of alienation, despair, loneliness, and death, reflecting Curtis's personal struggles with depression, epilepsy, and a failing marriage. On May 18, 1980, Curtis committed suicide at the age of 23, the day before the band was supposed to start their first American tour. The remaining members of Joy Division decided to continue making music together, but under a different name, New Order. They agreed not to use any of Curtis's lyrics or sing any of Joy Division's songs. They also added Gillian Gilbert on keyboards, who was Morris's girlfriend at the time. New Order's music evolved from the post-punk of Joy Division to a more dance-oriented and synth-pop style, influenced by the New York club scene and the electronic music of Kraftwerk and Giorgio Moroder. They became one of the most successful and influential bands of the 1980s, blending rock and dance music in a unique way. They released several albums, such as Power, Corruption, and Lies in 1983, Technique in 1989, and Republic in 1993. They also had many hit singles, such as Blue Monday, which became the best-selling 12-inch single of all time. Bizarre Love Triangle, True Faith, and Regret. They were also involved in the Manchester cultural scene, being associated with Factory Records and its nightclub The Hacienda. However, New Order was not the only musical project that the members pursued. In 1988, Sumner teamed up with Johnny Marr, the former guitarist of the Smiths, to form Electronic. Electronic was a synth-pop duo that explored Sumner's interest in dance music and Marr's interest in guitar pop. They released 3 albums between 1991 and 1999, Electronic, Raise the Pressure, and Twisted Tenderness. They also collaborated with other artists such as Neil Tennant and Chris Lowe of Pet Shop Boys, who sang on their first single, Getting Away With It. And Carl Bartas of Kraftwerk, who co-wrote some songs on their second album. In 1990, Hook formed his own side project called Revenge. Revenge was a hard rock band that featured Hook on vocals and bass, along with guitarist Dave Hicks and drummer Chris Jones. They released one album called One True Passion in 1990, which was produced by Hook himself. The album was not very well received by critics or fans, who compared it unfavorably to New Order's work. Revenge disbanded in 1992 after a tour with The Mission. In 1991, Morris and Gilbert also started their own side project called The Other Two. The Other Two was an electronic pop duo that featured Morris on drums and programming and Gilbert on keyboards and vocals. They released 2 albums, The Other Two and You in 1993 and Superhighways in 1999. They also composed some music for television shows such as America's Most Wanted and Making Out. In 1993, New Order went on hiatus after the release of Republic. During this time, Sumner focused on electronic. Hook formed another band called Monaco with singer David Potts. Monaco released 2 albums, Music for Pleasure in 1997 and Monaco in 2000. They had a hit single with What Do You Want From Me?, which sounded like a classic New Order song.
What do you want from me?
In 1998, New Order reunited for a one-off gig at the Reading Festival, and then decided to record a new album. The album, called Get Ready, was released in 2001 and marked a return to a more guitar-driven and rock-oriented sound. It featured guest appearances by Billy Corgan of the Smashing Pumpkins, who sang on Turn My Way, and Bobby Gillespie of Primal Scream, who sang on Rock the Shack. The album was well received by critics and fans, and spawned singles such as Crystal,
I don't know what to say.
and 60 Miles an Hour.
I'll be there for you when you want me to.
In 2005, New Order released another album called Waiting for the Siren's Call, which continued the rock direction of Get Ready. It also featured Phil Cunningham, who had joined the band as an additional guitarist and keyboardist in 2001. The album included singles such as Crafty,
Give me one more day.
Jetstream, which featured Anna Matronic of Scissor Sisters,
J.E.T.
and Waiting for the Siren's Call.
I won't desert you.
However, in 2007, New Order split up again, this time due to personal and financial disputes between Hook and the rest of the band. Hook announced that he was leaving the band, and that he would not work with them again. He also claimed that he owned the rights to the name New Order, and that he would sue them if they used it without his permission. In 2005, Hook formed a new band called Free Bass, which featured 3 bassists, himself, Andy Rourke of the Smiths and Monty of the Stone Roses and Primal Scream. They released one album called It's a Beautiful Life in 2010, which was preceded by an EP called Two Worlds Collide. However, the band soon fell apart due to internal conflicts and poor sales. In 2011, Sumner, Morris and Gilbert announced that they would continue as New Order without Hook, and that they would be joined by Tom Chapman, who had played bass with Bad Lieutenant, another band that Sumner had formed in 2008 with Cunningham. Bad Lieutenant had released one album called Never Cry Another Tear in 2009, which featured guest vocals by Jake Evans. New Order played their first gig with the new lineup at the Ancienne Belgique in Brussels on October 17, 2011. In 2013, New Order released their first new material since Waiting for the Siren's Call, an EP called Lost Sirens, which consisted of 8 tracks that were recorded during the sessions for that album but were left out. The EP included a single called I'll Stay With You.
I'll stay with you till hell freezes over.
In 2015, New Order released their 10th studio album called Music Complete, which marked a return to a more electronic and dance-oriented sound. It was their first album without Hook's involvement, and their first album on Mute Records. It featured guest appearances by Iggy Pop, who spoke on Stray Dog, Brandon Flowers of The Killers, who sang on Superheated, and La Rue, who sang on several tracks. The album was critically acclaimed and commercially successful, reaching number 2 on the UK Albums Chart. It spawned singles such as Restless,
But how much do you need? How much?
Tutti Frutti,
You got me where it hurts, but I don't really care.
Singularity,
I can hear your cry there.
and People on the High Line.
I'll keep trying. It's all gonna be alright.
In 2020, New Order released a live album which documented their performance at the Manchester International Festival in 2017. The performance featured a 12-piece synthesizer orchestra and a stage designed by artist Liam Gillick. The album included new versions of some of their classic songs as well as some rarities. In conclusion, Joy Division, New Order and their related bands have been some of the most influential and innovative bands in music history. They have created a legacy of music that spans from post-punk to synth-pop to dance rock to electronic music. They have also inspired countless other artists across genres and generations. They have shown that music can be both dark and uplifting, both experimental and catchy, both personal and universal. They have shown that music can be a way of coping with life's challenges and joys. Thank you for watching this video. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for more music-related content. And don't forget to leave a comment below telling me what you think about these bands and what other bands you would like me to talk about next time. See you soon!